In this lesson, we're going to continue using our understanding of place value and division to divide two-digit numbers by one-digit numbers using our partitioning methods. But we're going to move up a step this session, and we're going to be looking at exchanging or regrouping in order to solve these calculations. So turning to our textbook, we can see that our problem is going to be relating to our lanterns and our boats. Question 1a asks, how many lanterns were released by the boats? So pause the video, look at your handout and count how many lanterns. And then what I want you to do is represent those lanterns using base 10 equipment. So if you've got some base 10 to hand, you can actually make it using the concrete resources, or alternatively you can draw what you think the image would look like if we used our base 10. And for question B, we're looking at the same number of lanterns were released by each boat. How many lanterns were released by each boat? So in order to work out this one, think about whether you've represented those number of lanterns appropriately, whether you counted them correctly, and then think about how many boats and what number sentence are we going to be using for that. So how are you going to put those two numbers together to create that number sentence? Now pause the video and I want you to calculate both those answers. So 1a, can you represent how many lanterns were released by the boats using your base 10 equipment? And question 1b, if the same number of lanterns were released by each boat, how many lanterns were released by each boat? So pause the video and work out those answers before we move on to have a look at the strategies you used. So let's begin by looking at question 1a. Now this question was how many lanterns were released by the boats, and you were asked to represent the lanterns using base 10 equipment. Well, the amount of lanterns released were 42, and we can partition that number into 40 and 2, so 4 tens and 2 ones. And you can see that I've represented that number as 4 tens and 2 ones, so 4 10 sticks and 2 1 cubes. For question 1b, we were returning to our picture, and this time we were looking at if the same number of lanterns were released by each boat, how many lanterns were released by each boat? Now we've worked out that there's 42 lanterns in total, and there's 3 boats, so the number sentence that we'll be looking for in this question is 42 divided by 3. So as you can see, our number sentence of 42 divided by 3, I've already partitioned my number into 4 tens and 2 ones. And what I'm going to start off with, a larger number this time, so my 4 tens, and I'm going to work out, can 40 be divided by 3? And in this instance, what I'm going to try and work out is how many 3s can I make out of those 4 tens? And we can see nice and simply, I can make one lot of 3 and I have that 10 left over. So if I can get one lot of 3 out of my 4 tens, what do I do with my other 10? Well, I'm going to simply regroup it. I'm going to take my 1 10, I'm going to place it with my 2 ones. So now we can see that if I cross out these numbers a moment, there's not 40 there, there's 30, and there's not 2, but there's 12. So I can get one group of 10s, and now I have my 12, which is what I'm going to be looking at next. So with my 10s, I was making groups of 3, and with my 1s, I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to be making groups of 3. So how many groups of 3 can I make out of 12? So here we can see that I've got 4 groups of 3. So in my 10s, I managed to get one group of 10s. And in my 1s, I managed to get 4 groups of 1. And if I put these together, I've got my answer of 14. And in order to double check this, I can simply do the inverse of multiplication. So I was saying I was having groups of 3, and I've got 14. So I can work out that 10 groups of 3 gives me 30. 4 groups of 3 gives me 12. 30 plus 12 gives me 42. So let's have a look at our first question in the textbook. There are 36 people waiting to get on 2 buses. The same number of people get onto each bus. How many people get on each bus? So my first step for this is going to be partitioning my number 36 into my 10s and my 1s. And I'm going to represent these using my base 10. 1, 2, 3 for my 3 10s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for my 1s. And I'm going to start with my 10s. I'm going to work out how many groups of 2 I can make out of my 3 10s. In this case, I can make one group of 2 with 1 left over. Now that one group of 10 left over, I'm going to regroup this into 10 lots of 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And just as I made groups of 2 for my 10s, I'm going to make groups of 2 for my 1s as well. So we can see that I've got one lot of 10s, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lots of 1s. And if we add these together, my answer is going to be 18. And if we work out the inverse, 18 times 2, 10 times 2 gives me 20, 8 times 2 gives me 16, 20 plus 16 gives me an answer of 36. So we can see that my answer is correct. Now my recommendation for you on this would be for you to keep this open on your screen and paused. So you can refer to this as you work through the rest of the exercise in the textbook before you move on to independent activity. And I look forward to seeing how you get on with this one. So good luck with your regrouping.